What happens when calm journalism meets royal arrogance? In just 15 minutes, what started as a polite exchange inside a quiet, elegant studio slowly shifted into a brewing confrontation. One that even Tucker Carlson hadn't entirely anticipated. No audience, no applause, no commercial cuts, just two men in a softly lit room, and a tension thick enough to feel in the air. Prince Harry had agreed to sit down with Tucker to finally set the record straight. But from the moment the cameras blinked on, it was obvious this wouldn't be a normal interview. The studio was arranged to feel warm and intimate. Soft lighting, a faintly glowing fireplace, dark wooden bookshelves filled with neatly placed framed photos and leather-bound books. Tucker Carlson sat comfortably in his chair, posture sharp, expression controlled but attentive. Across from him, Prince Harry leaned back slightly, one ankle rested on his knee. His jaw tight, his gaze sweeping the room as if he already regretted being there. "Your Royal Highness," Tucker began in his familiar steady voice. "Thank you for being here. It's been quite some time since you've done a one-on-one interview like this. What made you decide to speak now?" Harry gave a partial smile, one of those that stayed far away from his eyes. "Well, Tucker, maybe I finally decided to spend an evening doing something that feels beneath me." Tucker blinked once, a short pause, a small polite chuckle that held absolutely no amusement. "I see," he said. "Well, I appreciate your time regardless." Harry tilted his head slightly. "Yes, I'm sure you do." The temperature in the room seemed to drop a few degrees. Tucker leaned forward, keeping his composure untouched. "Let's start with something simple. You've spoken often about wanting privacy, stepping away from constant media attention. But at the same time, you've released books, filmed documentaries, and sat for interviews like this. How do you balance those two things?" Harry sighed theatrically. "Journalists love that question. You all act like it's impossible for someone to want to tell their story without being hunted. Privacy doesn't mean silence, Tucker. It means having boundaries, is something your profession struggles to grasp." Tucker nodded slowly. "That's fair. But wouldn't you agree that being a public figure brings a certain level of attention you can't avoid?" Harry let out a small, cold laugh. "You're American. You wouldn't understand royalty if it punched you in the face." The tension thickened. Tucker didn't flinch. "Perhaps not," he said calmly, "but I do understand inconsistency." Harry's eyes shot up sharply. "Excuse me?" "You've criticized the press for exploiting private moments," Tucker continued. "Yet you've also made millions sharing intimate stories, some involving your own family. Some people might call that contradictory." Harry smiled mockingly. "And some might say American journalists pretend to care about truth while wearing expensive suits and acting like they speak for the people. Look at you, Tucker." Tucker's lips tightened just slightly. His voice stayed steady. "Interesting perspective. Do you feel being misunderstood gives you permission to dismiss every question?" Harry smirked deeper. It gives me permission to be honest, as something your kind rarely attempts." For several seconds, the only sound was the low hum of the studio lights. The crew exchanged uneasy looks behind the cameras. Tucker's pen hovered above his notepad before slowly lowering again. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's talk about your book. In it, you revealed private conversations and arguments involving your family. Do you think that was fair to the people involved?" Harry leaned in, his tone dripping condescension. "Fair. Americans love that word. Fair is for courtrooms and playground rules. I told my truth. If others can't handle it, maybe they shouldn't have treated me the way they did." Tucker didn't answer right away. He watched Harry carefully, studying the pride in his defiance. "You know," Tucker said eventually, "I've interviewed presidents, soldiers, world leaders, and even dictators. Many were defensive. But you're the first who seems proud of being offended." Harry's glare sharpened. "And you're the first journalist I've met who confuses curiosity with arrogance." Tucker offered a faint smile. "I think that's our first disagreement tonight." Harry shrugged. "I doubt it'll be the last." The silence that followed wasn't peaceful, it was sharp, Electric. Tucker turned a page in his notes without looking down. Let's talk about responsibility. You've spoken about mental health and breaking cycles of trauma-worthy goals. But critics argue that your public complaints may have created new wounds within your family rather than healing old ones. How do you respond to that? Harry rolled his eyes dramatically. Critics? You mean tabloids with microphones? I don't respond to bottom feeders. Tucker lifted an eyebrow. You're speaking to one right now, aren't you? Harry faltered for half a second, then leaned back again. I said what I said. Tucker laid his pen down gently. You realize this interview was meant to let you share your perspective. Yet so far, all we've heard are insults. Maybe your questions deserve them, Harry said coolly. The corner of Tucker's mouth twitched. Well, we'll see if viewers agree. Harry smiled smugly, assuming he had won something. But Tucker's calm, unwavering stare signaled that patience had limits and Harry was rushing toward them. By the halfway point, the tension wasn't subtle anima rea, it filled every quiet moment. The crew practically held their breath. Tucker sat straight, composed, but his pen tapped softly on his notebook, a tiny signal of irritation building. Harry sat too comfortably, one leg thrown over the other, speaking with a smugness he didn't bother hiding. Tucker leaned forward again. Let's talk about your time in California. You've spoken about finding peace there, starting a new chapter. Do you feel distance from the UK helped you gain perspective? Harry chuckled. Perspective? Tucker, I didn't need to cross the ocean to get perspective. I needed to escape parasites with cameras. That's a strong word, Tucker said. Is it? Harry asked sarcastically. Because that's what the media is, parasites. They feed, twist, drain, and call it journalism. And now they expect me to talk about healing while sharpening their knives. Tucker crossed his legs slowly. You know, for someone who dislikes the media, you spend a surprising amount of time speaking to them. I speak when I choose, Harry replied smugly. On my terms, not on the terms of people desperate for clicks. That's interesting, Tucker said. You came here willingly, yet you act as though this is an ambush. Harry lifted his eyebrows. Well, you are Tucker Carlson, aren't you? Ambush journalism practically has your name on it. The comment landed heavily, but Tucker's expression held firm. If you believed that, he said, you wouldn't have accepted the invitation. Harry leaned forward. Maybe I came to see what it's like to be interrogated by America's most overrated commentator. The crew shifted, uncomfortable. And maybe, Tucker said evenly, you came here because deep down, you crave attention from the very institution you claim to despise. For the first time, Harry froze here briefly, but visibly. That's ridiculous, he snapped. You don't know me? Then help us understand, Tucker replied. You've spoken about trauma and feeling trapped. But some might say you've traded one kind of spotlight for another, one where you manage the lighting. Harry laughed humorously. You think I enjoy this, sitting here answering the same worn-out questions from men who've never dealt with half my pressure? I think you enjoy control, Tucker said. And I think losing control makes you angry. Harry's jaw tightened. Psychology isn't your strength, Tucker. I don't need a degree, Tucker replied. Just common memory. You've spent years saying the press mistreats you, yet you profit from the same stories. Harry crossed his arms. Please, don't pretend you care about consistency. You need conflict to stay relevant. And you, Tucker countered, seem to need interviews like this to remind people you exist. Silence smothered the room. Harry gave a tight smile. You think you're clever. I think I'm doing my job, Tucker said calmly. Harry's eyes narrowed. Your job is to provoke. My job is to ask questions. You twist them, Harry snapped. You twist everything. Tucker's tone stayed level. And you twist accountability into persecution. That did it. Harry shot up from his chair, pacing. You think this is a game? You think you're some brilliant American exposing the angry prince? I don't think that, Tucker said quietly. But I do think you mistake accountability for attack. Harry spun on him. You, lecturing me about privilege? Tucker tilted his head slightly. Yes, because you seem to believe yours excuses disrespect. Harry's breathing was sharper now, his expression hard. You wanted to explain your story, Tucker said softly. But so far, You've only attacked anyone who challenges it. Maybe most people don't deserve explanations, Harry sneered. There it is, Tucker murmured. Honesty at last. Harry smirked. See, Tucker, the difference between you and me is that I don't need people to like me. No, Tucker replied steadily. But you need them to listen. Another temperature drop. Harry leaned back, smirking lazily. You act like some guardian of morals. Please. You chase ratings. You live off outrage. Ratings don't justify behavior, Tucker said quietly. Nor does privilege justify cruelty. Oh, stop pretending, Harry said with a laugh. My team thought this interview might be entertaining. That's why I'm here. The remark hit like a punch. Even the sound tech flinched. Tucker simply leaned forward. So this conversation, your chance to clarify your own narrative, is just a joke to you? Harry smirked with bored eyes. I expected better questions. Tucker just stared at him for a long second. Then he smiled faintly. Let's try a better one, he said smoothly. What responsibility do you take for the damage you've caused your family? Harry stiffened. Excuse me? You've accused them of racism, manipulation, neglect. Tucker continued evenly. Do you believe those claims helped understanding or just fueled division? Harry laughed dramatically. You think I'm the problem? You really are unbelievable. Some would say sharing private grievances for millions undermines your own message, Tucker said. Profit. You think I did this for money? Harry snapped. You've earned millions, Tucker said. Don't pretend you're better than me, Harry hissed. I'm not, Tucker said quietly. But I also don't call something honesty only when it benefits me. Harry's breathing was short now, his anger rising. You think your microphone lets you talk down to me? He barked. I think everyone in this room sees who's talking down to whom, Tucker replied calmly. You twist everything, Harry growled. No, Tucker answered softly, coldly. You mean every word you're saying? Harry's composure cracked. He stood again, voice sharp. You journalists think you can trap me. Tucker remained still. Keeping composure is pressure. You should try it. Harry froze. Fury flashed openly. You don't get to humiliate me, he spat. I'm not trying to humiliate you, Tucker said gently. I'm trying to have a conversation. But you seem allergic to civility. Harry's fists clenched. You're patronizing me. I'm restraining myself, Tucker corrected. The silence felt like it might shatter. A producer mouthed cut the feed, but Tucker didn't stop. You came here saying you wanted to tell your truth. But truth doesn't need hostility. It needs clarity. And you've offered none. Harry laughed bitterly. You wouldn't know truth if it slapped you. And yet, Tucker said quietly, I seem to be the only one here not hiding behind it. Harry pointed at him furiously. You twisted everything. You wanted to make a fool of me. No, Tucker said, rising slowly. You're doing that all on your own. Harry's nostrils flared. You're done. This is an attack, an ambush, or? Tucker adjusted his cufflinks calmly. If it's an ambush, Your Royal Highness, it's one you marched into wearing a crown of arrogance. Harry stepped forward. Where? Tucker raised a hand. Stop. Enough. They stood there, one burning with fury, one radiating quiet control. I think that's enough for tonight, Tucker said finally. We'll take a short break. The cameras cut, but the tension stayed. Harry muttered, You'll regret this. Tucker barely glanced at him. I doubt it. The floor manager called for a reset. Everyone knew the next part wouldn't be a continuation, it would be the finale. When the cameras flipped back on, the air was still thick. Producers had debated ending the segment, but Tucker insisted on finishing it cleanly. Harry sat stiffly, irritation flickering in his eyes. Tucker remained composed, hands resting lightly on his knees. Welcome back, Tucker said steadily. We're here with Prince Harry, discussing life beyond the royal family, public perception, and what freedom means. Harry gave a faint, taunting smile. Freedom? If this is freedom, it's nothing but another interrogation by someone who thinks manners equal obedience. Tucker didn't react to the barb. Civility, he said, is the ability to disagree without losing control. Harry scoffed. Control? You mean pretending, acting polite while twisting everything into a cheap headline? Isn't that your job? I report, Tucker replied. I don't perform. Harry leaned in, his voice thick with disdain. "Come on. You and your viewers crave drama. You don't want sincerity, you want a villain. And today, it's me." "You're playing the role voluntarily," Tucker answered calmly. Harry froze, then laughed bitterly. "You think I care what anyone thinks of me?" "No," Tucker said softly. "And that's the issue." Harry stiffened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Tucker leaned slightly forward. "You've spent years saying you're misunderstood, mistreated, misrepresented. But right here you twist every fair question into an attack. You ask for empathy but offer none. You demand respect but show none." Harry blinked several times, anger simmering. "You don't get to lecture me. You blame everyone else for your decisions," Tucker said. Harry's mouth opened, but no words came out. "You think you're some moral compass," Harry managed finally. "But you're no better." "I don't claim to be," Tucker replied. The silence stretched again. Harry straightened himself. "You've never lived what I've lived." "You're right," Tucker said. "But I've also never used my pain as a shield." Harry's jaw clenched, and the interview continued, each exchange sharper, heavier, more revealing than the last, the tension never loosening for even a moment.